Well, basketball fans have been treated with a very nice opening to the season. A lot of great non-conference matchups. For the third straight time, Alabama played a top 10 opponent. They beat St. John's, lost to Purdue, but picked up a huge win over Illinois in Chicago, led by LeBaron Philon, a preseason all-SEC player, certainly living up to the hype here in the early stages of the 2025-2026 season. Welcome into Southeast Sports Plus. I am Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And Patrick, we've talked about Coach Nate Oates before and the way he scheduled the non-conference part of the season. He said out loud, he said, I don't care if we end up 500 or our record is not that sexy as we go into non-conference play. He wanted to play a bunch of good teams early on. He has to be pleased so far with the results in the early stages, especially with the big three opponents they've played.
Definitely has to be pleased. I mean, and again, it doesn't get any easier now because you've got Gonzaga coming up in the Players era and a field that is absolutely loaded. But it was a huge one to get this win last night in the United Center, third straight against a top 10 opponent. But the only thing you can really say about that is it feels like Alabama's up and down right now and up. Going back to the St. John's game, dropping 100 in the Mecca, and just a great shooting game for the Tide. Come back home, have arguably one of the biggest home games in your program's history. And just kind of laid an egg there, and Nate Oates said it very bluntly. We didn't give up effort. We got out-rebounded. I don't remember exactly how much, but I think it's like
I
think they got
20,
doubled.
Not north of. I
mean, Purdue brought down double the amount of rebounds, so he was like, we need to rebound better. And what did they do against Illinois? I think they kept it a lot closer on the rebounds. I think Illinois still won the rebound battle, but it wasn't by 20. I think it was like by 3. And so huge win for Nate Oates. Definitely a big resume booster because now you've got wins over Illinois and St. John's. I know you don't really want to look ahead to March Madness this early in the season, but I mean, you can't help but not to.
Right. Especially when it comes to these kind of teams, because we expect these teams to make deep runs throughout the course of the regular season, throughout the course of the postseason. So it's hard not to go ahead and start to forecast what those games will look like moving forward. And you and I talked about this yesterday, the fact that this could be a matchup that we see later on in March with these two basketball teams. And so to be able to put up 90 points and get a win there is really interesting. And I find it also interesting that they played in Madison Square Garden where the Knicks play. Then they also played where the Chicago Bulls play, and their best two performances are in NBA arenas. In Coleman Coliseum, they get out-rebounded by 20 in that game, but they do hit 16 threes, and you don't see that very often. You hit 16 threes and lose the basketball game, but that's what happened with Alabama in their game against Purdue. I find it interesting that they're playing their best games in the biggest arenas. It lets you know that, hey, when it comes to neutral site games in the postseason, they're at least ready for it.
You know, it almost makes you think that they get up for these games that are played in these big-time arenas, these famous arenas, and then you come back and you're like, man, why do we have to play here even though it's home? Like, this just isn't really right. And then they just don't play as well as they should. But I don't know. Did you see last night that Illinois came out to Sirius?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. Yeah, nice. Okay.
It was pretty cool. It would have been cooler if you won the game. And then it would have been tough, as the kids say nowadays. But big win for Nate Oates. But, I mean, Can we actually start talking about how LeBaron Philon might actually win the Naismith Player of the Year?
He has been absolutely unbelievable. Of course, here where we are located in Mobile, he played his basketball right down the road, about 15 minutes down the road at Baker High School before taking his talents to an academy for his last season. But he won Mr. Basketball here, and it was pretty evident as to why. And you're seeing that translate on the college level. And he was really open about what Nate Oates told him he needed to work on, what the NBA scouts told him that he needed to work on because he had his name in the draft for a little while. And one of the big things was leadership, because he has all the skills and talent in the world, but leadership and defense. You saw the defense come up last year. You're seeing the leadership come up this year. He scored a then career high 22 points in the opener. Then he scored 25. He now scores 24. We talked about this yesterday with Owe for Kentucky. Major expectations, and has not necessarily so far lived up to them. I think with Zach Edey early on at Purdue, saw some struggles early. He ended up obviously putting it together. Arch Manning is another classic example of a lot of hype going into the year, and not necessarily living up to it, especially early on. He certainly played better as
Right.
of late. I find it really interesting that LeBaron did come back with all this hype, and now he's living up to it, especially in the biggest games.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of a SEC football comparison. You can't compare him to Ty Simpson because Ty really didn't have
Right,
any
right.
expectations coming into the season
Yeah.
because no one really knew what you were going to get out of him.
I was
Maybe a Diego Pavia.
right. Somebody who's coming back, and
So I mean, LeBaron, he shows his personality out on the court.
For sure.
Mean, he's
Yeah.
into games, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what Diego is.
yeah, and I think a little bit. It might not be an apples to apples, but I think it's a little like Ryan Williams, where
Yeah.
he has this really really good first year, and they're expecting him to have another great year. And I know Ryan, he struggled with some drops and all things early on, and there will
Right.
be no perfect comparisons. But I do think that there are certain people that come in and say, "Hey, I need to work on this,"
Yes.
and they're working on it, and it makes it seem like a guy that understands his ultimate goal. I'm sure he's got two goals. Three goals maybe: to win an SEC championship, to win a national championship, and then go first round in the NBA
Yes.
draft and be a first round draft pick and go make some serious money. And it looks like a guy that took all of the advice he was told in order to hit all three of those goals. And so far, like, once again, it's very early in the season, only four games in, but so far it seems like he's taken that advice to heart.
Yeah, and the most important thing for him is I know they've got another one against Gonzaga. We'll
Yep.
talk about that game here in a few minutes, but when they go back to playing the cupcakes, not to just let up. I mean, use those
That's the
games
thing.
as something
Yeah.
you want to continue to work on something. What's a part of your game that just isn't working right now? Or,
Right.
I mean, there really is nothing that's not working for him. What's a part of his game that he wants to make a little bit better that could, help determine what this team does in SEC play? I feel like I don't want to make any early predictions, but I feel like Alabama's pretty much in the tournament
Yeah,
already.
absolutely.
As long as they finish in the top half of the SEC, they definitely
Right.
have the resume to do that. But no, you have a tough week next week with Feast Week, but that's exactly what you want. I think to Alabama's advantage is they're playing all of these tough games going into Feast Week,
That's
so
right.
they're already battle tested before some of these other teams are.
Right.
So I mean, you can come out the gates hot. You can shoot it. Alabama isn't afraid to shoot it. I think would they shoot 66 shots against
against
St. John's?
St.
And
John's,
last
yeah.
night I didn't look, but
I'll pull up the
probably
stat sheet. Yeah,
should we play that game again?
yeah, exactly.
All right, so 90 points last night, and
Yep.
it was back and forth all the way up until the end. It's definitely in the 60s. I want to say 68.
All right, from 68 from the field. You are really good at this. 66.
Yeah,
He
so,
had 30 of 66 from the floor.
If I said 66 in both games, then I would have had it right in both games. But
right. And 36 of those were from downtown.
Yeah,
So
I mean-
36 threes. They made 13 of them. Went to the free throw line 23 times, made 17. And Illinois took more shots. It took
Yeah.
73 shots. And so look at the total turnovers. Only one was the difference there. So I just think it's a great resume win for these guys. And like you said, when they go in, I think the challenge is almost the opposite. Typically, when teams play a very soft schedule early, you have to kind of get up mentally
Right.
and rear yourself up for those big games. For Alabama, they play so many big games, you almost have to find your way to get yourself up for the teams that you're better than
Exactly.
going into the rest of the season.
Exactly. And I'm going to go back to them shooting the three ball a lot because when I was watching the game last night, it wasn't like – so the court had both the college line and the
Yes.
NBA line.
Right.
It wasn't like they were just taking them from just behind the
Yep.
college line. They
Yep.
were – some of those shots – I think Holloway took a shot from at least 35 feet away.
Right, yeah.
I mean, just ridiculous range.
Uh-huh.
We call that limitless range in the 2K world, but I mean they're not afraid to shoot it. And the three ball, what happens in March? What do you need to have going for you? You need to be able to shoot the three. That's going
right.
to not only get you in games, but that's also going to turn the momentum. I mean, it used to be a dunk. Nowadays, I'd say a big three-pointer changes the momentum more than a dunk now.
Absolutely. No question about it. So Alabama does get that win there in Chicago over Illinois. We got a chance to hear from head coach Nate Oates on LeBaron Philon's performance.
Yeah, I think he scored 9 straight points, somewhere in that stretch. I don't know where exactly that all was, but I mean, he's like a man. He has a lot of fun playing basketball. He competes. I'm on him. Well, playing harder, being smarter. He's got to stay in the game. The fouls he has, he's got to stop with it. He had a bad gamble defensively there when we need him to get stopped. But I think playing with 4 fouls, was hoping to get a steal and not have to guard. I think it was on Stojakovic. No, it was either Basel or Stojakovic. I can't remember. So, look, man, offensively, he's super talented. I told him our team's going to go as he goes a lot. So he's going to create a lot of shots we've got some elite shooters that I think can get better shots. Holloway is a way better shooter than what he showed tonight, because I didn't think we necessarily got him great shots. Houston Millett's better shooter. Those guys, Houston Millett, Reitzel, and Holloway are a lot better than 25% like they were tonight. But I think Barron, being as aggressive as he was to score, I think can open some stuff up for those guys down the road, get those shooters going. But, man, we needed his points there in the second half tonight for sure.
So the second half performance there was kind of the turnaround for this basketball team, and I continue to celebrate these matchups, and it's not just this matchup with Alabama and Illinois. It's also what we saw Kentucky matching up against Michigan State. It's Texas and Duke.
Right.
I really like this for the SEC. SEC obviously set a record last year. 14 teams of the 16 made it to the big dance. 2 in the Final Four. Won the national championship as well, and the one that was a national championship winner wasn't the team that was the number 1 overall seed. That was Auburn. Auburn was the number 1 overall seed. They didn't win the championship. It actually happened to be one of Bruce Pearl's former assistant coaches who won the national championship there in that game. So I just think that this bodes well for the SEC, and I'm not sure what the overall numbers will be at the end of the non-conference slate, but I do think the SEC will once again prove itself to be the upper echelon conference in all of college basketball.
Oh, for sure. And I think LeBaron Philon could honestly make his case. Again, it is very early on this season. We need to keep on reiterating that. But he could definitely make his case for SEC Player of the Year, especially with a preseason SEC Player of the Year. Otega Oweh kind of being a mystery here at this point. But I think we talked about it before the St. John's game, and we looked at this stretch with Scott Griffin, and we were like, okay, I think if Alabama could get 2 wins here, they'd be in a great spot. Well, guess what? You already have 2 wins.
You do, yes.
And, you're going up against Gonzaga next, which we can go there now if we want.
Yeah.
Gonzaga looks good this year.
They do.
Honestly, I think they could be a sleeper for a Final Four because in the few games that they have played against Power 4 opponents, it feels like they just dominate teams. There's few teams where I can confidently say, hey, these teams are going to go far this year. And one of them is Gonzaga. The other one's Arizona with Koa Pete.
Right.
I mean, that dude is incredible as a freshman.
Yeah.
But big one next week, big tournament, the Players Era Festival in Vegas. There's so many teams, so many good teams. Honestly, and we talked with Roger about this on Monday.
Yeah.
The Maui is so down this year that the Players Era is probably better.
Probably, yes.
It probably has a better field than the Maui.
Yes, exactly. And it's in Sin City, so it's right here. It's over there in Vegas. But I'll spit some teams out for you. Rutgers, Tennessee, Creighton, Baylor, Kansas, Notre Dame, Iowa State, St. John's, Houston, Syracuse, of course, Auburn and Alabama, Oregon, Gonzaga, Michigan, San Diego State, UNLV, Maryland. These are teams not only with the great pedigree as far as just what they've done in the past,
history,
but here in the last half decade or so, that's most of your Final Four teams. That's a couple of your one national champion, but you just have a bevy of teams right here in it that I think if you walk away from this and you have a couple of wins. Bama plays, of course, Gonzaga, and they'll play UNLV. Auburn plays Michigan, and they also play Oregon. Tennessee will play Rutgers early, and then they'll play Houston. I think if you walk away from this thing and you're able to stay healthy, number one, get a win or two, I think you're in great shape.
I mean, if they walk away with this and win it, I think this is the tournament where if you win, you get NIL money.
Yes.
So not only do you get NIL money, but you are easily a top 4 team in the country.
No question.
I mean, you can't make the argument against it because of how good that this field is. But obviously, you got to win the first one.
Right.
You got to win the one against Gonzaga first. And then, let all the other stuff just be gravy afterwards.
Yeah.
No pun intended. I know next week's Thanksgiving.
And it's definitely feast week there. And if you're a college basketball fan, it'll be feasting there for sure. Coming up Next here on our show, we will have a lot of great guests on today. We have a lot of great topics as well. We will talk with our good friend Courtney Mims here in just a second, talking some Arkansas football, also some basketball, and so much more coming up next.